Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Functional Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, live better. I'm your host, Chris Borda, best-selling author and owner of Y.E.S Fitness. Let me first thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to what I have to say. And before we start, let me also thank our sponsor, Y.E.S Fitness. Most people lose the ability to enjoy life as they age. At Y.E.S Fitness, we help people age 40 plus get fit so they can live longer and enjoy those extra years doing the things they love to do. Some quick housekeeping here. We've got, you want to get a transcript or a timestamp of today's broadcast, head on over to yesfitnessct.com. You'll see a button for podcasts. Click on that. It'll give you access to any one of our 396 episodes. You can also get this broadcast wherever podcasts can be found. Boost your longevity with particular supplements. If you're training, eating well, and still low energy, foggy, or dealing with stubborn blood sugar, it's not a discipline problem. It is a physiological problem. As we age, cellular energy drops and recovery starts. That's why I use particular. NMN supports energy production. Resveratrol supports heart and brain health, and berberine helps regulate blood sugar. It's clean, science-backed, made in the USA, and I use it myself. So go to particular.com, that's Partiqlar, and use code YES15 to save 15% on your order. The hidden peptide truth everyone is missing about longevity and recovery. If you've spent any time in the fitness or longevity world lately, you've probably heard the word peptides. They are everywhere right now. People are talking about faster recovery, fat loss, anti-aging, healing injuries that just will not go away. And if you listen long enough, it starts to sound like peptides might be the missing link. But here's the problem. Most people have no idea what they actually are. And even fewer understand how to evaluate whether they're safe, effective, or worth it. So today I want to walk you through this in a way that you'll understand it and be able to make your own decisions. No hype, no fear, just clarity. Because if you're going to put something in your body, especially something that claims to improve longevity, you need a framework for thinking about it. So what are peptides really? At the most basic level, peptides are just short chains of amino acids, which means they are not foreign to your body. Your body already uses peptides every single day. Hormones like insulin are peptides. Signaling molecules that tell your body to repair tissue, build muscle, or regulate inflammation are peptides. So the idea behind peptides therapy is simple. If we can introduce specific peptides into the body, we may be able to enhance or mimic natural processes. That is the promise. But here's where things start to separate, because not all peptides are created equal. We got two worlds of peptides. They are really two completely different categories you need to understand. First, you have the FDA-approved peptide therapies. These are compounds that have gone through rigorous testing. We are talking about controlled studies, safety data, dosage standards, manufacturing oversight. They're used in medicine every day. Things like insulin, GLP-1 medications, and certain hormone therapies fall into this category. Then we have what is called the gray market. And this is where most of the conversation is happening right now. They are peptides that are often labeled as research used only. They're sold online. They're not approved for human use, and yet people are using them anyway. And this should immediately raise a flag. Not because they are automatically dangerous, because the system that ensures safety and consistency is not there. This is actually important to understand. Developing a drug is expensive. It takes years of research, clinical trials, and regulatory approval. So what happens is this. A peptide shows promise in early research, maybe in animal studies, maybe in small human trials, but it never makes it all the way through the approval process. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means we do not have enough evidence yet. So companies step in and start selling it anyway. Label it as research use only, and now it is available. No oversight, no standardization, no guarantees. There's a problem with that. When you buy something in that space, you're making three big assumptions. Number one, you're assuming that peptides actually does what it says. Number two, you're assuming that the dose is correct. And number three, you're assuming what is in the vial is actually what the label says. That is a lot of assumptions. And the reality is, we do not have strong evidence across the board to support those assumptions. So let's talk about some popular ones. You've probably heard of a few of these. The BPC 157 is one of the biggest. It is often marketed as a healing peptide. People claim it can accelerate recovery from tendon injuries, muscle strains, even gut issues. Here's what the research actually says. Most of it's all in animals. There's very limited high-quality human data. So while the mechanisms make sense, we cannot confidently say it works the way people think it does in humans. Another one is CJC 1295. This is tied to growth hormone release. Again, the idea is appealing. More growth hormone, better recovery, better body composition. But once again, limited high-quality human data. Melatonin 2 is another one used for tanning. It does have some physiological effects, but it also comes with potential side effects that are not well understood long term. And then there's SS31. This one is interesting because it targets mitochondrial function. This is a big deal when we're talking about energy, aging, and performance. But again, we're still early in the research. So how do we evaluate this? This is the part that matters the most. Because whether it's peptides, supplements, or anything else, you need a system. So here's a simple framework. First, what level of evidence exists? Are we talking about human studies, small human trials, or large controlled studies? Second, what is the magnitude of the effect? Even if something works, is the benefit meaningful? And third, what are the risks? Not just short-term side effects, but long-term unknowns. And fourth, what is the quality of the product? Because even if the compound works, if the product is inconsistent or contaminated, that changes everything. So let's take a look at this from a longevity perspective. And this is where I wanted to bring it back to what we talk about all the time. Functional longevity is not built on shortcuts. It is built on repeatable, proven behaviors. Strength training, daily movement, proper nutrition, sleep, stress management. Those things are not exciting, but they work. More importantly, they are predictable. Peptides, especially in the gray market, are not predictable. That does not mean they will never have a place. In fact, the future of peptides therapeutics is incredibly promising. There are compounds in development right now that could change how we approach aging, recovery, and disease. But they need to go through the process because that process is what gives us confidence. So here's the real questions we should be asking. It is not just, does it work? Does this make sense for me right now? If you are not strength training consistently, if your nutrition is not dialed in, if your sleep is inconsistent, peptides are not the solution. They are a distraction. But if you're doing everything right, if you have specific medical need, if you're working with a qualified professional, that is a different conversation. So the wellness industry moves fast, faster than the science, and peptides are a perfect example of that. There's a real potential here, but there's also a lot of noise. Your job is not to chase every new thing. Your job is to filter, to ask better questions, to make decisions based on evidence, not emotion. Because in the end, the goal is not just to live longer, it's to live better. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who wants to stay strong, sharp, and independent as they age. And remember, the goal is not just to live longer. The goal is to live better. Keep training, keep moving. I'm Chris Borda, and I will see you next time on the Functional Language podcast with more information on how to get fit, feel younger, live better. Thanks for watching.